Welcome to Fact Horizon. This is where history meets mystery and facts define the future. We explore the profound truths of human existence, the wonders of the mind, and the secrets of the cosmos, all in one place. If you seek knowledge and wonder, you're in the right spot. Subscribe now and join our journey beyond the horizon. Today, we are embarking on a mission that feels a little different than our usual expeditions. Often, we are looking outward at the stars or backward at ancient civilizations. Today, we are looking inward into the domestic heart of a country that has been defined by headlines for decades, yet remains largely misunderstood by the wider world.
It really does.
We're doing a comprehensive deep dive into Khaled Hosseini's masterpiece, 1,000 Splendid Suns.
It is a profound choice. You know, when people hear the name Khaled Hosseini, the immediate association is usually The Kite Runner.
Absolutely.
That book was a global phenomenon. It stayed on the bestseller lists for literal years. But there's a very strong argument, one that I happen to agree with, that 1,000 Splendid Suns is the more significant work.
How so?
It's more mature, structurally more complex, and it tackles a subject matter that is infinitely harder to look at directly: the lives of women in Afghanistan over the last half-century.
Exactly. The Kite Runner was a father-son story. This is a story about mothers and daughters, about sisterhood formed in the most unlikeliest of places. It's a saga.
It truly is.
I mean, we're talking about a narrative that spans from 1959 all the way to 2003. We see the monarchy, the Soviet invasion, the brutal civil war, the Taliban regime, and then the beginning of the U.S. Reconstruction. But the genius of the book is that it doesn't feel like a history lesson. It feels, I don't know, like a diary.
That is the perfect way to put it. Hosseini uses the political landscape as the weather, but the story is about the people living in the house. We are going to explore how history crashes right into the living room.
And it crashes hard.
It does. We're focusing on two women, Maryam and Layla. They are born a generation apart in completely different social classes, yet their lives collide in a way that is both devastating and surprisingly hopeful.
We have a lot of ground to cover. This is a dense, emotionally heavy book. So to keep our investigation on track, we've broken this deep dive into 4 distinct parts. We're going to follow the chronology of the novel.
Which is the only way to do it, really.
Right. We'll start with Maryam's origins, move to Layla's youth during the war, then see where their paths intersect, and finally, look at the aftermath and legacy.
It is a long journey, but every single step is necessary to understand the payoff at the end. It all builds.
So let's unpack this. Part 1, the life of Maryam.
This section covers the first 15 chapters, taking us from 1959 through to the mid-1970s.
We open in Herat. Now, for those of you who haven't dusted off a map of Afghanistan lately, Herat is in the west. It's an ancient city, known for poetry, for art, for culture. But our protagonist, Maryam, doesn't get to experience any of that.
No, not at all. And that geography is the first critical piece of symbolism in the book. Maryam is born in 1959, but she doesn't live in the city proper. She lives in a kolba.
A kolba. Can you describe that for us?
It's a small mud hut. Really, just a one-room shack located in a clearing called the Goldaman. It's on the outskirts, deliberately hidden away from the respectable society of Herat. She lives there with just her mother, Nana.
This isn't a rustic retreat. This is exile.
It is forced isolation, a prison without bars. And to understand why a mother and child are living in a mud hut, separated from civilization by a stream and a rough track, we have to talk about the concept of harami.
Harami. It's the first word that really lands a punch in the text.
It's a gut punch. It translates to bastard. It refers to an illegitimate child. And you have to understand, in the conservative social structure of 1950s Afghanistan, being a harami isn't just an unfortunate circumstance. It's a character flaw. It's a stain on your soul.
So she's born guilty.
Exactly. Maryam is the result of an affair between a wealthy, prominent cinema owner named Jalil and his housekeeper, Nana. When the pregnancy happened, the scandal was too much. Jalil couldn't acknowledge it publicly without ruining his reputation, his family, his business, so Nana was cast out.
And Nana. Well, let's talk about her. She is not the warm, nurturing mother figure you might expect in a hero's journey. She is bitter. She's hard.
Oh, she is a woman who has been completely broken by the world. And she's determined to break Maryam before the world gets a chance to do it itself. It's a kind of twisted protection.
A preemptive strike on her own daughter's spirit.
Precisely. There is a scene early on that captures this dynamic perfectly. Nana has a Chinese tea set. It's the only valuable thing she owns, an heirloom from her mother. It has a sugar ball with a dragon on it. And 5-year-old Maryam, being a child, accidentally knocks it over and it shatters.
And the reaction from Nana is just visceral.
It's terrifying. She doesn't just scold her. She grabs Miriam and hisses, "You are a clumsy little harami." She tells her, "This is my reward for everything I've endured. An heirloom-breaking, clumsy little harami."
She weaponizes that word.
Absolutely. She projects all the shame of her own life onto this innocent child. She is teaching Miriam from day one that she is fundamentally a mistake, that her very existence is an inconvenience and a source of pain.
But amidst this abuse, Nana drops a line that is basically the thesis statement for the plight of women in this novel. It's a quote that stuck with me long after I finished the book.
I know exactly the one you mean.
Like a compass needle that points north.
A man's accusing finger always finds a woman.
That is profound. It's a worldview of absolute fatalism. Nana's telling Miriam, it doesn't matter what happens, it doesn't matter who is at fault, you, the woman, will be the one blamed, so don't even try.
Exactly. Nana is trying to harden Miriam against hope. She thinks hope is a dangerous fantasy. But Miriam is a child. And children crave love. It's a biological imperative, since she doesn't get it from her mother.
She directs all that adoration toward her father, Jalil.
Jalil is the polar opposite of Nana. Nana is the grim reality of the mud hut. Jalil is the shiny promise of the city. He's this glamorous figure.
He owns a cinema. That's like being a king to a little girl.
It is. He visits the Kolba every Thursday, and for Miriam, the entire week is just a waiting room for Thursday. Jalil is charismatic, he wears nice suits, he tells her stories about his cinema, about the American cartoons he shows, about the pistachio trees in Herat. He represents the whole world she is locked out of.
But there's a hollowness to it, right? He visits her, but he keeps her a secret. He's living a double life.
It's a completely transactional relationship, though Miriam is too young to see it that way. He performs penance. Once a month, he sends his legitimate sons to push a wheelbarrow of supplies up the track, rice, sugar, oil. But he never takes Miriam down the hill.
The direction is always one way. He comes to her world, but she can never enter his.
Never. He never introduces her to his 3 wives or his 9 legitimate children. She is his dirty little secret, gift-wrapped in weekly visits and charming stories.
Miriam is young, but she isn't stupid. She senses this disparity. There's a game she plays with pebbles that is just heartbreaking.
The pebble game. It's a recurring motif, and it's devastating. Miriam collects smooth pebbles from the stream and arranges them on the floor of the kolba.
It's like her own private census.
It is. She puts 4 pebbles in one column for Jalil's children with his first wife, 3 for the second wife's children, 3 for the third, a whole family tree made of stones. And then she places 1 solitary pebble away from the rest.
For herself.
For herself. She is physically mapping her own isolation. She understands the structure of his legitimate life, and she knows she's the outlier.
She knows the data, but she rejects the conclusion.
That's a great way to put it. She clings to this fantasy that she is special to him, that the secret nature of their bond makes it more precious. She believes that if she just asks the right way, he will let her into his life.
And that leads us to the turning point, the catalyst. Miriam turns 15, and she decides she wants something for her birthday. Not a toy or a dress.
No, she wants an experience. She wants to go to his cinema.
She wants to see Pinocchio.
The symbolism is just wow. It's playing at his theater. She wants the experience of being a daughter in public. She wants to sit in the velvet chair, eat pistachio ice cream, and be acknowledged by him in his world.
And Jalil's reaction is, well, it's cowardly.
Utterly. He panics. He can't say yes because that would expose his shame to the entire city. But he's too weak to say no to her face, to see her heart break. So he gives her this vague, non-committal answer, "We'll see."
The classic parental delay tactic.
Exactly. And when the day comes, he simply doesn't show up. He ghosts his own daughter on her 15th birthday.
And this is where Miriam's childhood ends. She makes a decision.
She does. She decides if he won't come to her, she will go to him. For the first time in her life, she disobeys Nana, leaves the Kolba, and hikes into Herat alone. She's never seen the city. It's overwhelming. She finds his house. It's a mansion with a walled garden, and he refuses to see her.
He's inside, and he knows she's there.
Oh, he knows. He sends his servants, his chauffeur, to deal with her. He won't even face her. And Miriam, stubborn and heartbroken, refuses to leave. She ends up sleeping on the cold street outside his gate.
That image is just devastating. The girl curled up on the concrete while her father is inside in warmth and luxury. It shatters the idol she had built of him.
And the consequences are worse than just a broken heart. When Jalil's driver finally takes her home the next morning, guilt-ridden, Miriam sees something hanging from the willow tree in the Kolba clearing.
Nana.
Nana had threatened suicide. She'd said, "I'll die if you leave," and she did it. She hanged herself. Miriam is instantly crushed by a guilt so profound it's almost impossible to imagine. She feels she has murdered her mother by seeking out her father.
So now Miriam is truly alone. She has no home. Jalil is forced to take her in.
Forced is the key word. She's brought into his mansion, but she is completely unwanted. The wives look at her like she's a disease, a walking, breathing reminder of Jalil's infidelity.
She's a problem they need to solve.
A problem to be disposed of, quickly and quietly. And in this context, the solution for a 15-year-old girl is marriage.
They arrange a nikah, a wedding, almost immediately.
They find a suitor named Rashid. He is a shoemaker. He is a Pashtun man, traditional, and significantly, he lives in Kabul.
All the way across the country.
Hundreds of kilometers away, it's perfect for the wives. It removes Miriam, the source of their shame, from the city entirely, out of sight, out of mind.
And he is 45 years old. Miriam is 15.
It's a sale. It's a business transaction, effectively. The scene where Miriam says goodbye to Jalil is the final severance. She leaves her childhood toys and, pointedly, her pebbles behind. She looks at him, this man she adored, and says, "I used to worship you."
And he can't even look at her.
He can't meet her eyes. He knows in that moment that he has failed her completely, unforgivably.
So Miriam travels to Kabul, a new city, a new life. She moves into Rashid's house in a neighborhood called Damazang. And immediately the tone of her life shifts again. This isn't just a loveless marriage, it's a subjugation.
Rashid isn't physically violent on day one, but the oppression is immediate. He expects a servant, not a wife. He expects her to cook, clean, and stay invisible. But the most jarring moment is when he presents her with a burqa.
We need to pause on this. In the West, the burqa is such a loaded political symbol, something we see on the news. But Hosseini describes the sensory experience of putting it on for the first time.
He really does. He puts you inside it with her. It's suffocating. She feels claustrophobic. Rashid gives her this sanctimonious speech about honor. He says he isn't like the soft men of Kabul who let their wives show their faces to strangers. He frames his jealousy and control as protection.
A woman's face is her husband's business only.
Exactly. But for Miriam, looking through that mesh screen, the world shrinks. She literally loses her peripheral vision. The world becomes a narrow tunnel. She ceases to be a person and becomes an anonymous, moving shape. It's the first step in her erasure.
And despite all this, she tries. She tries to be the good wife. That's all she's ever wanted, is to belong somewhere. And she gets pregnant.
And for a brief moment, Rashid is happy, or at least pleased. He builds a crib. He goes out and buys a beautiful suede coat for the baby boy he is absolutely convinced is coming.
He needs a son.
He's desperate for a son. We learn he had a son before who drowned, so this is his chance to replace that loss, to restore his own masculine pride.
But tragedy strikes again. Miriam miscarries in a public bathhouse.
It's a traumatic, bloody, humiliating scene, and Rashid's reaction isn't comfort. It isn't sympathy. It's disgust. He turns on her instantly. He takes that little suede coat he bought and buries it in the yard, and with it, he buries any kindness or patience he ever had for her.
The cycle of abuse begins here in earnest.
It does. Over the next 4 years, Miriam gets pregnant 6 more times, and 6 more times she miscarries. With every loss, Rashid becomes crueler, more resentful. He blames her. He calls her body defective. He even calls her a harami, throwing that word, her mother's word, back in her face.
This culminates in a scene involving rice that I think is the horror peak of this first act. That's almost unreadable.
It is. Miriam cooks dinner. Rashid decides the rice is undercooked. It's a pretext, of course. He's just looking for a reason to unleash his rage on her. He drags her outside into the yard.
And what he does is so specifically cruel.
It's diabolical. He forces her to open her mouth. He grabs a handful of pebbles and gravel from the ground and shoves them in.
The pebbles, her game, her only companions in the kolba.
Now weaponized, he forces her to chew on the rocks. You hear her molars crack. He screams at her, "Now you know what your rice tastes like." It's just brutal. It breaks her spirit completely. In that moment, she realizes she is living with a monster and she has absolutely nowhere to go.
That is where we leave Miriam, for now bleeding, broken, and trapped in Kabul. In the next part, we will explore the life of Layla and the changing landscape of Kabul.
This brings us to part 2, Layla and the War in Kabul, chapters 16 through 26.
And we are jumping forward in time now to 1978. And geographically, we are moving just down the street from Miriam and Rashid. Layla is born on the very night of the Saur Revolution, the communist coup.
And the contrast between Layla's life and Miriam's is intentional and stark. It's a whole different Afghanistan, at least in this little pocket of Kabul. Mariam was a harami in a mud hut. Layla is the beloved daughter of a university-educated teacher.
Her father, Hakim, everyone calls him Bobby, is one of my favorite characters in the whole book. He is soft-spoken, intellectual, and surprisingly progressive for his time and place.
He is the anti-Rashid in every conceivable way. While Rashid is forcing Mariam under a burqa and breaking her teeth, Bobby is smuggling books to Layla and telling her that she is the future of Afghanistan. He has this incredible line.
Marriage can wait, education cannot.
Yes, a society has no chance of success if its women are uneducated. He encourages her, he pushes her. He doesn't want her to marry young. He wants her to go to university, to have a career, to be somebody. He fills her head with poetry and knowledge.
But the household isn't a perfect academic salon. Layla has a mother, Fariba, who's known as Mammy, and Mammy is. She's absent even when she's in the room.
Mammy is a victim of the political situation. By the time Layla is growing up, the Soviets have invaded Afghanistan to prop up the communist government. And Layla has two older brothers, Ahmad and Noor. They've run off to join the jihad, the mujahideen resistance against the Soviets.
And Mammy is consumed by this.
Completely. She spends her days in bed depressed, anxious, just waiting for news of her boys. Her whole emotional world revolves around these two absent sons.
So Layla feels like a consolation prize. She knows, deep down, that her mother loves the idea of her heroic sons more than the real present daughter.
And when the news finally comes that the boys have been killed in battle, that they've been martyred, Mammy's life effectively stops. She becomes a ghost in her own house. She goes through periods of manic grief, screaming and tearing at her hair, and then sinks into these deep, catatonic depressions where she doesn't even get out of bed. Layla is essentially left to navigate her teenage years with only Bobby for support.
But she has a friend, Tariq.
The boy next door. Tariq is a fantastic character. He lost a leg to a landmine when he was very young, a horribly common tragedy in Afghanistan at that time. But he refuses to be defined by it. He's fierce, he's funny, he's loyal.
Their relationship is really the heartbeat of this entire section of the book. It starts as a childhood friendship, they're partners in crime. There's a scene where a neighborhood bully sprays Layla with urine from a water gun.
And Tariq, without a second's hesitation, takes off his prosthetic leg and just beats the kid senseless with it.
It's violent, but it shows the ferocity of his loyalty to her.
Absolutely. And as they hit puberty, that fierce friendship evolves. It becomes this beautiful, slow-burn romance. They invent a system of signaling each other with flashlights across the alleyway at night. They're carving out this little bubble of innocence and love amidst a city at war.
But the bubble can't last. The Soviets withdraw in 1989. And a lot of people, including Layla's family, thought that would finally mean peace.
But it actually led to something much worse. Civil war. The Mujahideen warlords, who had been united to fight the Soviets, immediately turned on each other to fight for control of Kabul. The city becomes a checkerboard of territories controlled by different factions. Massoud in the north, Hekmatyar in the south.
And they were just shelling each other's neighborhoods indiscriminately. Rockets are raining down on the streets, schools close, people are being blown up while walking to buy bread. It's total chaos.
It is. But Bobby, her father, tries to keep Layla's spirit alive. He takes her and Tariq on a day trip to see the Buddhas of Bamiyan, those massive ancient statues carved into the cliffs.
The ones the Taliban would later destroy with dynamite.
The very same. But in this moment, they're still majestic. Bobby wants to show Layla the deep history and profound beauty of her country, to remind her that Afghanistan is more than just war. And this is where the title of the book comes from.
Right. He recites a poem.
He does. A 17th century poem by Sabi Tabrizi about the city of Kabul. One of the lines is, "One could not count the moons that shimmer on her roofs, or the 1,000 splendid suns that hide behind her walls."
It's such a beautiful sentiment that even behind the walls of war and suffering, there is brilliance, there's beauty, but reality crashes in hard. By 1992, the fighting is too intense. Tariq's family decides they have to leave. They're fleeing to Pakistan.
This just breaks Layla. Tariq begs her to come with him. He proposes. He says they can get married and go together. But Layla feels she can't leave Bobby, and she can't leave Mammy, who still refuses to leave the land where her sons are buried.
So Tariq leaves. Layla is devastated, but the violence keeps escalating. It gets closer and closer. Finally, a stray bullet narrowly misses Layla in their own garden. And this finally wakes Mammy up. She realizes she's going to lose her only remaining child if they stay. She agrees to leave.
It's a huge moment. They start to pack up. They are leaving the very next day. They are loading Bobby's precious books into boxes. Layla is outside in the garden for just a moment. And then, just Random, horrible chance intervenes.
A rocket.
A rocket, one of the thousands being fired across the city, slams directly into the house. Bobby and Mammy are killed instantly. Layla is thrown through the air, knocked unconscious, and buried under the rubble of her home.
It's so abrupt and horrific. In 1 second, her entire life, her parents, her home, her future with Tariq, everything is just erased.
She is left an orphan, severely injured, and completely alone in a war zone.
Coming up in the next part, we will see how the paths of Maryam and Layla converge under the roof of Rashid.
This brings us to part 3, Intersection of Fates. This covers chapters 27 through 47, a huge chunk of the book.
So Layla wakes up. She is in terrible pain. She's disoriented. And the person nursing her back to health is Maryam.
Rashid, their neighbor, found Layla in the rubble. He dug her out and brought her to his home. And Maryam, despite her own misery, has been tending to her wounds, cleaning them, feeding her.
But we have to be clear. Rashid isn't running a charity here. This isn't an act of pure altruism.
Not even close. He sees an opportunity. He has an aging, unproductive wife he despises. Now suddenly he has this young, beautiful, educated girl in his house who has no family, no protector. He is a predator.
He immediately begins this campaign of manipulation.
It's sickeningly clever. He hires a man named Abdul Sharif to visit the house. This man sits with Layla, who is still weak and grieving, and tells her a story. He claims he was in a hospital in Peshawar with a group of refugees that included Tariq.
And he says Tariq is dead.
He gives her details. He says Tariq lost his other leg, was in agony, and died of his injuries. He says Tariq spoke of a beautiful girl named Layla in Kabul. It's all a lie, a paid-for fabrication to crush her hope.
And Layla has no way of knowing that. Her last link to her old life is gone.
She is completely adrift. But then she makes a discovery that forces her hand. She realizes she is pregnant.
With Tariq's child. From the night before he left.
Exactly. Now she is in a truly desperate situation. A single, pregnant woman in Afghanistan during the Civil War. She would be an outcast, or worse. She would be in physical danger. She realizes the only way to save her child is to find a father, to give the baby legitimacy and protection.
So when Rashid, this much older, controlling man, proposes marriage,
She accepts, not for love, not for security, but purely for the survival of her unborn child. She sacrifices her own freedom to give her baby a name. She lets Rashid believe the child is his.
So now Rashid has 2 wives. And he just revels in this new power dynamic. He uses this horrible analogy that makes my skin crawl. The Benz and the Volga.
It's pure, blatant objectification. He tells Layla she is a Mercedes-Benz, a luxury car, brand new, shiny, something to show off. Then he points to Maryam and calls her a Volga, an old, sturdy, ugly Russian car that is just meant for work, for hauling loads. He's deliberately pitting them against each other.
And it works, at first. Maryam hates Layla. She sees her as the usurper, the thief who stole her husband. Not that she loves Rashid, but he was her position, her security. It's a domestic Cold War.
It is. Layla tries to be nice, but Maryam gives her the silent treatment. They live like strangers in the same small house until the baby is born. Layla gives birth to a girl, Azitha.
And Rashid, who was so sure he was finally getting his son, is furious.
He is disgusted. A girl. He looks at the baby like she's a defect. He immediately loses all interest in Layla. He stops treating her like a Benz and starts treating her like he's always treated Maryam. The abuse begins for her too.
And strangely, this shared abuse, this shared enemy, becomes the catalyst for their bond.
It really does. The turning point is a specific fight. Rashid is enraged about something trivial. He raises his heavy leather belt to beat Maryam, as he's done hundreds of times. But this time, Layla does something no one has ever done. She lunges at him. She grabs his arm. She physically stops the blow.
That moment gives me goosebumps every time I read it. For 20 years, Maryam has been completely alone in her suffering. And suddenly, this girl puts her body on the line for her.
It changes everything. The ice between them shatters. That night, there's the famous tea scene. They sit together in the yard drinking tea, and the hostility just evaporates. They start talking. They bond over the baby, Aziza. Maryam realizes Layla isn't the enemy. She is a sister in the trenches with her.
They become a family. Maryam becomes a second mother, a khala, an auntie to Aziza.
Yeah.
And together, they decide they can't take it anymore. They plan an escape.
It's a terrifying plan. By now, the rules in Kabul are extremely strict. Women cannot travel without a mahram, a male escort, or relative. So they save up money, go to the bus station, and find a man who looks kind. They offer him money to pretend to be their cousin so they can buy tickets to Pakistan.
It's a huge, desperate risk.
And it fails spectacularly. The man takes their money and then immediately betrays them to the Taliban guards at the station. The women are arrested, they are interrogated, and then they are sent back home to Rashid.
The punishment is unimaginable.
Rashid beats them savagely, but it's worse than that. He locks Layla and her toddler, Aziza, in an upstairs room with no food and no water for days in the summer heat. He boards up the window. He nearly kills Mariam with his fists in his belt. It is the absolute darkest point of their captivity.
And outside the four walls of that house, things are getting even darker. The Taliban take over Kabul in 1996.
Right, and we have to understand the context here. The Taliban impose an extreme, brutal interpretation of Sharia law. They ban music, movies, books, kite flying, but the restrictions on women are total. No work, no school, no leaving the house without a male relative. Windows of homes must be painted black so no one can see the women inside.
And Rashid, he loves it.
He feels completely validated. His private tyranny is now public policy. He says things like, I will shower them with rose petals, meaning he will enforce these rules with enthusiasm. The government is now enforcing the misogyny he's been practicing privately for 2 decades. It gives him state-sanctioned power over them.
Amidst all this, Layla gets pregnant again. And this time, it is Rashid's biological child, a boy, Zalmai.
Rashid finally gets his son, and the dynamic in the house shifts again. He spoils Zalmai rotten. The boy can do no wrong. Meanwhile, he treats Aziza like a servant in her own home. But then the economy completely collapses. A massive drought hits Afghanistan. Rashid's shoe shop burns down, and he can't find work. They become destitute.
They are starving, literally.
They are. The children are getting sick from malnutrition. Rashid makes a horrific decision. He says they can't afford to feed everyone. He forces Layla to put Aziza in an orphanage.
This just breaks Layla's heart.
It's gut-wrenching. She has to walk her own daughter to this grim, overcrowded institution and leave her there. But what's even more powerful is what she does to visit her. Because Rashid refuses to take her, and she is forbidden from going alone, Layla has to sneak out.
This is the deep dive into Layla's raw courage.
She walks across Taliban-controlled Kabul alone. Inevitably, she gets stopped by the Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, the religious police. They beat her in the street with cables and antennas for being unaccompanied. She takes the beating, goes home, heals, and does it again the next week and the week after. She endures physical torture just to see her daughter for an hour.
That is resilience. And it's during this bleak period that Hosseini mentions this strange detail in the book about the movie Titanic.
Titanic City, it's incredible. Despite the ban on all movies, pirated copies of James Cameron's Titanic flood the black market in Kabul. Everyone is obsessed with it. You have people starving, living under this brutal regime, and they are fascinated by this story of a sinking ship in the North Atlantic.
It seems so ironic, but it actually makes a kind of sense. They're all on a sinking ship. They're waiting for a savior. They're waiting for Jack to come and pull them out of the freezing water.
And for Layla, her Jack is about to appear.
In our final part, we will discuss the ultimate sacrifice of Mariam and the legacy she leaves behind.
And this is part 4, Sacrifice and Hope.
It's a normal afternoon.
Yeah.
Layla has just returned from a brutal trip to the orphanage. There's a knock at the door, and standing there is a man with one leg.
It's Tariq.
He's alive.
He's alive. Rashid had lied. The whole story about the hospital, Abdul Sharif, it was all a complete fabrication. Tariq had been in a refugee camp in Pakistan. He'd lost his parents. He'd been in prison for a time, but he never stopped looking for her. He finally found his way back.
The reunion is just overwhelming. It's this moment of impossible hope. But it is fraught with danger. Rashid is at work. But Zalmai, Layla's son with Rashid, is home.
And Zalmai adores his father. He is loyal to Rashid. When Rashid comes home that night, Zalmai, in the innocent way of a child, says, Baba, the man with one leg, was here today.
And the air just goes out of the room. Rashid knows.
He knows instantly he has been deceived. He knows Layla lied about Aziz's paternity. The rage that follows is apocalyptic. It's beyond anything we've seen before. He attacks Layla.
But this isn't a normal beating. This is an execution.
It is. He locks the door. He throws her to the ground. He gets on top of Layla. He has his hands around her throat, and he is strangling her. Layla is fighting for air. Her face is turning purple. She is dying.
And Mariam is watching this.
Mariam sees the girl she has come to love as a daughter, the mother of the child she adores as a grandchild, being murdered right in front of her. And she sees her own life, 40 years of submission, of being a harami, of being a Volga, of taking abuse. And in that instant, something doesn't snap. Something clarifies.
She runs to the tool shop.
She grabs a shovel. She comes back into the room. She says his name just once. Rashid. He turns surprised. And she swings the shovel with all her might.
She hits.
The first blow knocks him down, but he's a big man. He starts to get up. He looks at her with this expression of pure murder. He's going to kill them both now. So Miriam raises the shovel again. She swings again with everything she has. And she kills him.
She kills the tyrant. It is a moment of pure shock and, in a strange way, liberation.
It is Miriam's first and final supreme act of agency. For the first time in her life, she decides the outcome. She saves Layla. But now they have a body in the living room.
And the Taliban are in charge outside. Layla wants them all to run. She says they can flee to Pakistan with Tariq, start a new life.
But Miriam is the realist. She's always been the realist. She knows they can't run. A woman who just murdered her husband, another woman who is his widow, a man with one leg, and 2 small children. The Taliban will hunt them down and kill them all. Miriam realizes that for Layla, Tariq, and the children to have any kind of future, she must stay behind.
She decides to take the blame.
She sacrifices herself. It's a conscious choice. She tells Layla to go. The goodbye scene between them is one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever read. Miriam stays, she waits, and she turns herself in.
She confesses to the murder of her husband.
She is put on trial. It's a sham trial, of course. The judge actually admits that Rashid was likely a bad man and that Miriam suffered, but he says Sharia law is clear. A life for a life. He sentences her to death.
And the execution takes place in Ghazi Stadium.
The main soccer stadium in Kabul. The Taliban used it for public executions. Thousands of people are watching. Miriam is led out to the center of the field. She kneels.
And what are her last thoughts? Is she afraid?
The book says she is afraid, naturally. But mostly, she feels peace. She reflects on her life. She thinks about how she came into the world as a harami, an unwanted weed, mistake. But she is leaving it as a woman who loved and was loved. She leaves it as a mother, a grandmother, a friend, a savior. She recites verses from the Quran, and then it's over.
It's so heavy. But her death buys life for the others.
It does. Layla and Tariq and the children escape to Pakistan. They get married. They live a quiet, peaceful life for a while in a beautiful town called Murree. But the story doesn't end there. After 9/11, the U.S. invades Afghanistan, the Taliban fall, and Layla feels this powerful pull. She wants to go home.
She wants to be part of the rebuilding. She feels it's her duty.
Yeah.
But before they settle back in Kabul, she makes a detour. She goes to Herat.
She wants to see where Miriam came from, to understand her roots. She visits the site of the Kolba. It's just a ruin now. But she tracks down the son of Mullah Faizullah, Miriam's old Quran tutor, and he gives her a small tin box.
A box left by Jalil, her father.
Yes. Years ago, before he died, Jalil had come to Kabul to try and see Miriam, to finally apologize. But Rashid wouldn't let him in, and Miriam refused to see him anyway, so he left this box for her.
And what's inside?
Closure. There's a VHS tape of the Disney movie Pinocchio, the one she never got to see with him. There's a long letter where Jalil finally admits he was a coward and a failure as a father and begs for her forgiveness. And there is money, her inheritance.
A substantial amount.
It would have been, but it's in the old, now worthless currency. Still, Layla and Tariq have their own money, and they take it back to Kabul. But she doesn't use it to buy a nice house for themselves. She uses it to renovate the orphanage where Aziza had been forced to live. She fixes the walls, buys new beds, buys books and supplies.
She becomes a teacher there.
She fulfills her father Babi's dream for her. The book ends with Layla, pregnant again with her and Tariq's child, in a classroom at the orphanage. The children are asking her questions about the world, and as she answers them, she feels Miriam's presence, her love, surrounding her like 1,000 splendid suns.
The endurance of the human spirit.
That is the absolute core of it. The title refers to that poem about Kabul, but in the end, it really refers to the women, Miriam and Layla. They're the suns hiding behind the walls, providing the light and the warmth that allows the future to grow, even from rubble.
It forces you to completely rethink everything you think you know about strength. Miriam wasn't a victim in the end. She wasn't a weed. She was a savior. She was a foundation.
Exactly. And it reminds us that even inside the darkest chapters of modern history, there are these incredible, epic stories of love and sacrifice that define what it means to be human.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the lives of Miriam and Layla. We hope this deep dive has illuminated the profound truths hidden within these pages. This has been Fact Horizon. Keep seeking knowledge, and we'll see you beyond the horizon.